Good evening and welcome to MetroFocus. I'm Rafael P. Roman. There's a new watchdog in New York State, and he's apparently not afraid of investigating anything or anyone, including Governor Cuomo. James Skoufis, a former Democratic assemblyman elected to the Senate last November, is now serving in his new role as chairman of the Committee on Investigations and Operations. Skoufis and his team have been looking into just about everyone, from pharmacy benefit managers, whom the senator has faulted for driving up prescription drug costs, to so-called slum-lords whom he claims have let housing conditions deteriorate across the state. There's no public probe of Governor Cuomo yet, but Skoufis has not been shy about stating his intention to exert the legislature as a co-equal branch of government. And joining us now from Albany for more on his investigations is Senator James Skoufis. Senator, welcome to the program.
Thanks very much for having me. Thrilled to be here.
So, Senator, you have pledged to conduct more aggressive oversight of state government, and there is at least some buzz that you might even have the intentions of investigating the governor's office or maybe the governor himself. Any truth to the rumors?
Well, look, we're doing something in the Senate Investigations Committee that has not been done for a very long time, really in recent history. And that is, we're actually doing real investigations. Go figure. We actually want to do the work that the committee is supposed to do. And the matter of fact is, for the first time, I think ever, we have full-time investigators that are sinking their teeth into these major issues that we want to look at. Previously, the Senate Investigations Committee, and quite frankly, the Assembly Committee as well, the totality of the so-called investigations consisted of a public hearing. Dragging a few people in front of TV cameras to make some public point, and that was it. That is not a real investigation. That could be a component of an investigation. But for example, you mentioned the two investigations that have publicly shared so far with pharmacy benefit managers, these middlemen who are driving up costs, and housing conditions. We have been looking at these two items for 2 months. We haven't had a public hearing yet because we're gathering testimony, we're gathering documents, and we're really researching these issues. On the housing item, there will be at least one public hearing, so it'll be a component.
And we'll get to that. And we'll get to that in a second, Senator. But I wonder if you could just, answer if, in fact, you are intending to investigate the governor's office at some point.
Well, look, I've always said since the beginning of January that everything and everyone is on the table. I've certainly questioned a number of programs that are out there, including on the economic development side, for example. Over my 7 years that I've been up here in Albany, these are government operations at agencies, and I think they do need to be looked at. I'm not targeting anything or anyone for the sake of targeting anyone or anything. I'm looking at issues that I believe we can make a difference in. We can improve operations. We can increase accountability. That's the point of this kind of stuff. All
right. To conclude on the governor, this is the last question on that. He has said that, hey, he has investigative powers and he can investigate the legislator, too. Some saw that as a veiled threat. Did you?
Yes, some saw it as a veiled threat at me. And quite frankly, I don't know how else one would take that. But let's be clear. It's his prerogative to look at anyone or anything within, his jurisdiction and power, and he can have at it. But I'm not going to be bullied. I'm not going to be threatened. And my team and I, we're going to move forward with the work that we intend to move forward with. And that's it. Okay. No one's going to influence that.
Okay, for the sake of time, let's focus on your investigation of housing conditions outside of New York City. Why did you pick that topic or that subject?
For a couple of reasons. So first, moving over from the Assembly, where I came from now, to the Senate, I obviously represent new communities, one of which is the city of Newburgh. And I think it represents a lot of small cities throughout this state where there are significant and at times unique housing issues. And so there's a personal interest here. One of the communities I represent has significant issues with code enforcement and housing that I want to look at. But more broadly there are a number of housing items that are being discussed right now up in Albany, from rent control laws that are about to expire, vacancy decontrol. All of these issues are being discussed, and I identified that code enforcement is missing from this conversation. So this is also an attempt to inject this very important element of housing, protecting the people who live in these houses, making sure that they're structurally sound, making sure that they're safe for first responders that respond to fire. We've had firefighters die because they've gone into buildings and houses that are not safe for them. So, this is an attempt also to inject this very important element into the broader housing debates that are going on up here in Albany right now.
So you've picked 4 municipalities, as you said, Newburgh, that's which you represent, but also Albany, Mount Vernon, and the town of Ramapo in Rockland County. Why these?
Well, certainly, Albany, we're here in Albany a great deal, my team and I. And so it's very easy for us to interact with the city of Albany because we're here. And I will say they've been exceedingly cooperative. And then in the Hudson Valley, we picked a couple of small cities, Mount Vernon, city of Newburgh. Mount Vernon has some pretty special issues going on right now. And the town of Ramapo actually has a long history of code enforcement let's say, issues where the state actually sent down a monitor, which I think is pretty unprecedented, to the building department in the town of Ramapo. But we're also able to, get a sense of how this works in a more suburban setting, not just the inner small cities outside of New York City. So I think we're going to be able to get a really good sample of how this works across the state from these 4 places.
Now, you've talked about the landlords that you're investigating. You called them slumlords on a number of occasions, and some people say that that's unfair, that some of these landlords have a lot of concerns that they have to deal with. Do you think you've been unfair in labeling them slumlords and in targeting them?
So certainly, I think slumlords should be targeted. I think we need to do a lot more targeting of slumlords than just this investigation. But let me also be clear, there are many, many good landlords. And so this is in no way a persecution of landlords across the board. We are looking at those bad acting landlords that are literally putting their tenants into harm's way, into dangerous situations. So I don't think it's unfair. In fact, I think we should be doing more to target the bad actors. I think the good actors, the good landlords, should want us to bring the bad apples up to, the good level that the others operate. It gives them a bad name. So, in no way is this a broad-brushed persecution. This is us trying to examine what's going wrong here with these slumlords, these bad actors, and how do we fix it?
So, Senator, what do you hope comes from the investigation of this investigation and all your investigations?
Yeah, so certainly on this investigation, but on all of them, I want to compel better behavior. And we're already seeing some of that just by virtue of taking a harder look on this issue. I want the bad acting landlords, the slumlords, whatever you want to call them, to know that the state is paying more attention to them, because I think that in and of itself compels better behavior and safer conditions for tenants. But more broadly speaking, at the end of every investigation, there will be a report that we issue. We're going to share publicly, be very upfront, what did we look at? What were our findings? What are our recommendations? How do we improve whatever we looked at, the process, operations, conditions, and we might have legislative recommendations. On the housing issue, for example, we might make recommendations to change state building code. Are there legal homes that we found that should be illegal? We're never going to investigate for the sake of investigating. We're going to investigate to try and make whatever we look at work better for the people of New York State that we all represent.
All right, Senator, we'll have to end it there. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.